You're all set.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. So welcome again, everyone. I'm Cynthia Mijares, Stanford Web Project Manager for Web Services. And today we are going to be talking about Stanford sites and going beyond the basic page or the basic building tool of Stanford sites. So there was a polev.com link here, and I have it in chat. So if you would like to click on that and rank the things that you want to hear about today, we will probably go off that list and at least get to the topics that people want to hear about most, because there are lots and lots of things that you can do on the Stanford sites, but I want to make sure that this is a valuable session for everyone today. So far on our list, it looks like we're going to start off with some taxonomy, get into events, cloning, our roadmap, etc. So I'll just keep coming back here and keeping us on track. Okay. So this is just a play site that I use for trainings. It's kind of got some content on it, or it has content. So some placeholder content that we can take a look at and just basically do some demos here today. So taxonomy, if you're not familiar with taxonomy, it's a way to group your content, whether it's usually a way to group structured content, whether it's your events or news or people. There's different types of events, say like a seminar or a conference or a lecture. Those would be different taxonomies. So the way to add those, I'm just going to scroll down to the very bottom. Apologies for the fast scroll here. And I'm just going to log in. I should have logged in earlier because I usually like to change my role to the site manager, which is what you will have as if you request a new site. So let me just do that so you can truly see what it will look like. To me. Just take that off. Okay, so you can see there's a limited set of menus at the top. If I go back to the site, under structure, here's all the taxonomy that we can add. So you can see all the different content types that we have here. I'm just going to go to events because that's what I was referring to. And this is where you can add terms. You can nest terms if you need to here as well. Like people do that for the people types. So if you have, say, for instance, staff, and then you have your undergraduate student services or administrative staff, you can group things within a taxonomy term as well. Okay, and then if you do nest things, it will nest or it will display in the order. So if these are nested, it will display seminar first on your conference page and then lectures second. So it could be whatever order you need that to be in. I'm just going to go back. And whoever is voting up taxonomy, if you'd like to hear more, just kind of unmute yourself, chime in if there was something specific that you wanted to talk about. Otherwise, I will just run through the list and we'll go through all the next topics. So I believe next was importers and events specifically. So let's just talk about events. So events is one of those structured content types that we have on Stanford sites that out of the box gives you a ton of different fields. There's a way to let me actually just get one in here. There is a way to add different sponsors, your content. You can add various different components similar to a basic page, whether it's banners, cards, text areas, lists, etc. Your details here, and then schedule. Schedule is really nice because you can create a conference page and add speaker details, schedule details, and let me show you what it looks like on the front end. So there's a few ways to have sites get added to, events added to your site. You can add them manually, or you can add them using an event importer, and the events would come from events.stanford.edu. The new localist. I see Justin's on here, so if anyone has questions about that, we have an expert on the screen.
I have a question.
Great. Yes, V.
So we use events as if like to archive all of the, for example, we have a tea seminar every week, right? And these events attach with a little bit of description of what the author going to be. So the professor would like to keep that. And he's been keeping it for decades. Now, since I created Drupal 7, I kept all of this manually within myself. So how would one, obviously I have to do manually create every one of those events. Can I create it toward the past? Like, let's just say, for example, 1998 events.
So is the goal to represent the event on the website from 1998?
Yes.
Okay, there's a lot. Right now, there isn't really an importer to import events from your D7 site.
Yeah, no. I don't need to import. I'm just asking you, would it be, even if I have to do it manual, I'm going to have to, but would that be possible? That's what I'm asking.
Would it be possible to represent them on here? Yes. So we do have something called past events page. Here. Actually, I wonder if it's on my events section. Oh. There is a past events page, so they can show up. It's past events, the URL.
I'll get you a sample.
Yes,
I'll throw it in chat. So here's an example of one of our websites. It's the CEPR Institute, and they host tons of events. This is an example of what past events looks like. So in this case, they create some of their own local events. They import from Localist. And when the event goes past in time, it automatically adds the past events tag and moves it to this page. So I think in your case, you're talking about, is there a way that you can populate your site with the past events so you can have that sort of running history? And you can do it in two ways. You can create the events like this, or really what we tend to recommend is that you just create a basic page and you put the past events on them as just basic text using basic formatting. Because if you don't need it to be structured content, if you don't need to filter and say, show me everything that we did under this topic under this month, then it doesn't necessarily have to be. Sometimes basic page content is good enough for the historical value. So sort of two different ways to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks for the link, Sarah. All right. Obviously, I have the wrong URL. Okay. So when we talk about importing, again, there is the event importer. Otherwise, you can create events locally here in the site through adding content, adding an event, or you can go use the events importer. I'll just show you that really quickly. The event importer assumes that you have an account at events.stanford.edu. So you have either a department or group account that you can select from, and all of these other things here that I'm not going to do right now. There's also the legacy calendar, which should be here, I believe, till the end of the year, but it's all about Localist now. Okay. So since we're talking about importers, there's also a person importer, and that is through the Stanford profiles.stanford.edu. And that is also done through, it's primarily done through work groups, but you can also import just on a SUNET ID or an organization. Yeah, here's a SUNET ID, but primarily we always suggest a work group. In that way, if the work group or the people in the work group change, it stays up to date. Okay, let's actually go take a look at what people looks like when we do import them. We can have some examples here. So these people are just created manually on the site. And again, you can add your own taxonomy, nested taxonomy if you need to. There might be one on the staff page. Yes, so I have some nested taxonomy terms here under staff, and then we'll list as staff, and then your nested terms. And let's see if I have someone filled out. So people in general will have all their contact information over to the right-hand side. I don't have any contact info for her, because I was just using this as my demo site. And let's actually just take a look at what kind of structured content you get here with a person. So here's those taxonomy terms. If I wanted to add another one, you could see if I added staff, and if there are nested terms available, it will be here. Otherwise, maybe just let's try student. Oh, there are nested terms in students as well. Okay. Photos, I'm not really going to get into all of the fields itself, just because we can, I'm guessing that a lot of the people here are fairly a little bit more advanced than just very intro. So all of the fields are pretty self-explanatory. And just like news and events, all of our content types have a section where, let me see where it is. You can add in components. Yep, so you can always add other components to any of the structured content type. So it's super flexible for whatever you need. If there was a YouTube video or you wanted to add a banner or whatever to this person, you could totally do that. Okay.
Hey, Cynthia, we have a question in chat. The first question is about how often does the importer run, and is it a cron job or a JavaScript fetch? I think it's every 24 hours, right?
Yes, it's a cron run. I don't know about JavaScript fetches.
That would be for like live fetching of the data. I think we just do it every 24 hours. The other question is there a way to create two separate people pages using the person importer? And I might ask Tony to come off mute and tell us more about that question, because I want to make sure that I'm understanding the use case. Is Tony still on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're currently building an intranet, and we're trying to actually divide certain sections of the website and to have different people sections for different pages. So is there a way to have like a regular people page on the main site, and then within a sub page, another people section for that specific group? Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, and that's a great way to utilize lists or teasers. The way that list, we'll get to lists and teasers a little bit later, but this is your main people page, but you could always create a list for just faculty, or a list for even, I know that there was a staff page. So you have all your staff, say there's 10 people on here, and then you want to have a page that's only listing just the department administrators. You can do that using a list.
Okay.
Okay. And it's the same person. You don't have to create two different profiles. It's the same profile. It's just getting displayed in a different way.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
And there's one more question from Chip.
Yeah.
And is an account acquired or something similar in the CAP system to allow for D9 to import from CAP?
Is an account required? Are you talking about, if you're talking about CAP credentials? Yes, we do need CAP credentials. And that is, you would need to request that using a ServiceNow ticket.
I believe there's instructions in our user guide, so I will grab that page and I'll throw it in chat.
Awesome. And V, I see your hand is up as well. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so, all of this stuff, obviously I'm going to relate back to Drupal 7. So in regard to the, let's just say you have staff right here, right? I want to be able to put that in a block. Obviously, it doesn't seem like I have that kind of capability in Drupal 9 on your sites. How can one do something similar like that?
If you're trying to display a single person
No.
or-
Categories. Let's just say you have a staff categories right here, right?
Mhm.
I want to create a simple blocks on the main page per se that I can put this in that particular block, or or I just want to create a simple blocks where I just write a simple HTML text or whatnot, just a simple block. Can I do
so
that?
you can display people in blocks using a teaser. It's a little bit more manual. And
Okay.
for instance, let's see, I have an example somewhere here. I don't want to mess with someone's live site, but we can add a block. I'm just going to go over to my about page and add something for you. So let's just add a teaser here. And I know Tanya is a person. If depending on how many you have, it will just take up the width of your screen. So this is a single person, which will take up the entire width of the page. So most likely you'll have more than one in a row. So you can add the, sorry, it's way down at the bottom. You can add them in blocks here, but if you have multiples in a row, they will stack. So if you have 2 or 3, it'll be the image and then Tanya Professor below.
Okay, so maybe this might be let's just say most people use, or at least I use blocks on the main page a lot, right? Because I need to put like, sit down with the professor. Hey, I don't want the event to be here. I want the event to be on the left side, right side, bottom, whatever, right? Do I have that kind of control for the main page?
In general, you would probably need a little bit more access permission, and you would probably get into something called Layout Builder, where you have more control over where things are positioned on a page. Typically, the way that Stanford Sites is set up, so I'm going to just edit this page. Excuse me. It's whatever you have in the body content area. You have access to all of these different paragraph types, and you can add things up to 3 per row and organize your rows, whatever's in your row. So you have that capability, but if you need to do something beyond that, I would explore Layout Builder.
And you are having that availability for the sites for Drupal 9s, right? The Layout Builder. Am I need to request it for it, or?
Yeah, we offer Layout Builder access by request because it kind of requires training. It's pretty
Understood.
easy to blow up your page.
Yeah, I know.
So want to be careful.
No, I'm sorry. I just have 30 days before this thing ends to move my whole Drupal site over to 7. So I need to put this thing up by the end of June 30th. So it's kind of time cramping for me.
Well, I tell you what, so that we can let Cynthia keep going with the training, why don't you put your contact information, just DM me in the chat, and I'll make sure that we reach out to you with some assistance on your specific site.
Okay, I see some other questions in here about lists. Thank you, Robert. The Drupal form fields again, is that for the person? And did you want to see that? From which form? The people form? Drag and drop paragraphs. Avi has a question about what are we doing to use this drag and drop of the paragraph types? I believe that's React.
Yeah, that's our Mike Decker created some React experience for us to achieve the drag and drop. And then I think it was it Lullabot that created something kind of cool that's fairly similar. So Avi, if you want to learn more about what Mike did in that particular instance and why he might be looking at something different, we can hook you up to chat with Mike.
Yes. All right, let's see where we're at now. We've got, page clone was at the top. So let's talk about page clone.
And Anne confirmed she is interested in seeing the people profile page again.
Sounds good. Let's go look at Tanya's again. So yes, all the fields are self-explanatory. I will say if you are using the CAP profile importer, fields might be grayed out and there will be a note at the top that says some of the fields are not available here and you need to edit that or update that in profiles.stanford.edu. So that way there's no conflict or your record is actually the one source of record there. Yep, so we've got our title section, taxonomies, optional photo, body. This is that section I was talking about where you can add components. And these are all the ones that you saw on the basic page on that sidebar, on the right sidebar. Contact and location information. There's a map, some other areas of interest. A lot of these are also in profiles. So they map nicely to a web page. Some links, a profile link. Was there something specific, Anne, that you had a question about?
Yeah, could you say again, thank you. Could you please say again how this page dovetails with the profiles section? So for example, if you update something on this page, on our own page at our desk, will it overwrite what exists in profiles, or do you have to go over into that other system?
Yes, so if you are using profiles.stanford.edu to import people to your site, whatever field is coming in from profiles, it will not be available here to edit. So we don't even allow you, say for instance, if you have the body field on profiles or maybe their email address, it comes from profiles, it will be grayed out. So you won't be able to edit it here. You'll have to go to profiles.stanford.edu and make the changes there. And then it will update in your website.
Okay, great. So the notification about that is that the field itself becomes grayed out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's grayed, or I don't even think you can see it.
Oh, all right, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, let's see what was next on our list. Page cloning. Let's talk about that. So this is something people like to do, especially when you have an event. Maybe it's a weekly event and you're just changing the date and the title and you just want to keep everything the same or the structure the same. A nice thing to do is clone. So let's just take this event here. We're going to do, what I did is went to all content. You can find the specific page. Let's just say, yeah, let's go find events. And I know it was this one right here. I'm just going to check it. And then in the actions section, there's something called clone. So we're going to clone the selected content and apply. And it asks me how many times do I want to clone it? And I'm going to prepend the clone ticket with the word clone. So that way I can identify which one it is. There's also ways to adjust things, but I'm just going to leave that alone. So it says I'm going to clone this item one time and I'm going to have a prepend called clone. So I'm going to apply. And now let's see if I have my clone here. Where's my clone? Did it not work? Yay, live demos. Oh, there it is. It just didn't show up. Okay, so here's my cloned event. Now I can edit that and change my title or change the date or whatever I need it to be. So I will just change the date just to make it easier. And I'm going to say July 13. Sounds good. Same time, everything. And 12. There you go. Everything is still here. then you can make your edits and save your page, and you've got a clone. Oh, another thing I should mention is when you do clone an item, you can see that it was left unpublished. So it assumes that you're going to clone a thing and it's going to be a draft, and you don't want it to be live right away. So it's by default, it's unpublished. And after you've made all your changes, then you can go ahead and publish that. Okay.
Hey, Cynthia, Bernardo is asking, is this a custom Stanford module or is it contrib? And does it work with Layout Builder?
I don't know if there's a way to clone in a layout. And I'm looking on the screen. I don't see Mike on here. Or yeah.
I think once you've created a basic page and done worked on the layout the way you want, I think you can still clone the page.
Yes. And will it keep the same layout? The way that Layout Builder works is you can clone, or you can create a layout on a node by node basis. So I can, for instance, change the layout of one specific page. And if you clone that, I'm not sure if it keeps the layout, because that way we're getting into the template for the layouts. So that might be something, whoever asked that, is that Bernardo?
It was, and I've got the question written down, so I'll fire it off to Mike and Ian, and maybe we'll get an answer during our session.
Yeah, that would be
to
great.
the question of, is it a custom Stanford module, though? Yes, the page she was just demonstrating is a custom Stanford module.
Yeah. Thank you. Great questions. All right. Let's see. Roadmap, and actually page layout. Since we are talking about page layout, in addition to, before I get to the roadmap, in addition to all of the flexibility you have with all of the different paragraph types, there is something, for instance, here on my About page, I see my sidebar navigation, and I really want to make this something splashier. I want to make it more of a landing page. There is something called layout options at the bottom of the page here. And by default, it's set at none. So it will use the body content area. But if you want to, you can also change that to full width. So you have your full screen. If it's a subpage, you will lose the sidebar navigation. And just one recommendation on, if you do change to full width, if whatever you have in the sidebar, I would recommend adding like teaser cards or something to point to those subpages on your landing page. So just wanted to show that quickly. All right. Let me get that roadmap here. And I see there's a question about clone. Besides title, mandatory from the original, history revision. You know what? That's a great question. Let's actually take a look at my clone and see if there's any history revision in there. Event. It was an event. Stanford rebuild. I don't even see my event here. Oh, did I publish it? It's still not showing up, which is weird. Wait, that's weird. Okay. If I take a look at this, is there a version history? Nope. Well, it's just the current version. It doesn't have all of the version histories if there were any, from the original piece. But it does keep all of the content. Like all the fields will have all the same content from the original. If that helps. Okay.
I'll
So
pop the user guide page into chat. It also keeps the author and the metadata. So
Oh,
a
thank
little
you.
bit more information.
Okay. All right, so Stanford Sites, as you can see here, it's something that we do have releases about every 4 weeks, whether it's a minor release or a major release. We do have a major release coming up in May, so you can see version 2.5. We've got courses coming in. We've got some other responsive tables and styles, and different styles for your tables at different screen sizes. And then we've also got a really big one, which is called shared tags, which people have been excited and waiting for since the beginning, since the launch of Stanford Sites. So yeah, shared tags is something that you can add a taxonomy term that applies to every piece of content. And I usually like to use a research term like water, because sometimes you can have news or an event or people who are working in that field, and you can now tag each one of them, or a publication, or even a basic page. You could tag them all with this shared tag and create lists of a research tag with all of the different content that applies. So that's really exciting. And then also our big push, June 30th, which is also here. As for many of the Stanford folks on here, you've probably been seeing emails about retiring your D7 site and moving off of that to the D9 platform. So just wanted to call that out again. Okay. Let's go back to what else people are interested in. Make sure I covered all those. News, teasers, lists. Okay. And we've got 10 minutes, so keep those questions coming, because I'm happy to take a pause. Okay, so news is another one of our structured content types, and I will just edit one of these so you can see what the fields look like. Very similar to the event, except we've got specific fields that are for news items. We've got headlines, a deck, which is that summary that you'll see in social media platforms a lot of the time. So we refer to that as our deck. Date, authoring information. Here's a place for an external source. If you're posting things, a lot of people put their department news or in the news. If someone, a faculty member, happens to be in a New York Times article and they want to highlight that on their website, that's a great way to do that. And by adding an external source, the link or the title link will link directly to the external source. Image, there's a difference here between the featured image and the banner. The banner goes on the news article itself, and the featured image is what's used in lists and in social media. Here are news topics, the taxonomy terms, and again, multiple sections where you can really go to town on adding any of these components: text areas, banners, cards, lists, all kinds of stuff, videos, whatever you need. So it's very flexible. So that's the back end. We are here. This is the all news list. And you can see all of the various different taxonomy terms here on the side. If I wanted to display a list of students, I would probably use something else like a list paragraph or a teaser paragraph. And I'll probably get into that next. If there's no other questions, I'm going to keep an eye on. Or Sarah, just chime in.
Yeah.
Something new.
We're good. No other questions so far.
Okay, awesome. News, we don't have a way to import that just yet. I think that's something, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's something in the backlog that people have been asking for, is to be able to have something where we can import the historical information on people's websites to the news site easier than one by one creating a news item.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely in the backlog. There's a big project coming up with University Communications that'll be working on the news site. So I suspect we'll probably partner as part of that.
And can editors use the views module? No. Sorry. Yeah, the way that it's a little different, not a little, a lot different than D7, where Stanford Sites is very much a controlled environment. So that way we can push releases to the core platform and it will benefit the entire university. There is a way if you need to do some more stuff with views or adding your own fields, and you might want to consider moving your site to a custom hosting environment. But of course that will incur costs, whether it's with
There's two ways. So
yeah.
There's Acquia custom environment for those who are managing larger custom sites that need the ability to do that custom development or reviews building. But we also have Stanford Domains, and Stanford Domains is a free hosting environment offered for, it's meant for that individual personal site or the smaller low traffic sites because it's a non-redundant environment, but it is free and it has an installer for a bunch of different kinds of platforms, including Drupal. So if you were looking for a more freedom to custom build your Drupal site, those are the two ways that you can do it: Stanford Domains or Acquia Custom. And Bridget has a question: would we be able to get the custom clone module from Stanford? So specifically the module we're using for cloning content. Let me look and see what that is. I think that's Contrib. So if I can find the link to it, I'll pop it into chat.
Yeah, I think Ian mentioned that yesterday during the Stanford Sites basic training, and it might be node clone. But if you want to see it and confirm, that would be great. Okay. So lists and teasers, this is where it gets really fun, because once you've got all your structured content created, it's on your site, people always want to display a list of a smaller section of a list. Maybe it's on your homepage and you want to display the 3 most recent news items or the 3 most recent events, and sort of like a feature, and then link to see all events or see the rest of our news items. The way to do that is using a list or a teaser. The teaser, the difference between the two is lists, of course, you can display 1 to 2, 3, all, that's your list, but a teaser will display a single item and it's selected. So if you're featuring something, you can add a teaser, but you are going to select something specific on your site, and a teaser could be anything. So let's talk about that. I do have a teaser here, which I think I added Tanya. So this is our little teaser icon on the right, and I'm just going to edit the one I have here. Oh, thanks, Sean. Okay, so here is a teaser, and you can see that I can start adding content items, and literally the entire list of content items is available to me. So right now I have Tanya, I can add Stephen, I can add my about page, I can add anything I want as a teaser. So it is manual, and I can just keep adding and adding and adding. And we'll take a look and see what that does once I save that. There is an optional headline if this is a section, and maybe this is featured water research. I keep going back to water, maybe because I live near the bay. Okay, so that's a way to do that. Add a little description. Maybe I want to see more about, learn more about our water research, and add some text. Okay, so that's teaser. Lists is a little different. So here's lists. The way that lists work is I will need to choose which structured content type I want to display. So I'm going to go with news, and then I can choose my display. There's the default list, which we had looked at earlier, and then there's a card grid. So let's do that, since we haven't really looked at that. Under advanced options, I can add an argument. So I know that, let's see, I can't remember what news items there are. Maybe there's faculty, I'm just guessing faculty news. So I can add an argument to find something specifically. And I think, Tony, you were asking about this. If you wanted to add people that it's a specific group of people, this is the way that you're going to do that. So you can add your argument here, and your argument is basically the taxonomy term. So if it's faculty, I don't know, administrative staff, let's use that. So that's 2 words. You're going to add a hyphen in between your taxonomy, the words. So that's faculty. Actually, I'm going to leave it blank. If I don't have an argument, it will just list all the news items. I can also specify a number. So if I just want to list the 2 most recent news items, I can do that. I can add my optional headline, recent news, and maybe a little description. Down here, I'm going to want to go to see all news and see all news. Okay. Let's just take a look, see what I did. Here's my teaser. So you can see that I have 2 people now and an about page. And you can see Tanya shifted the position of her teaser shifted from horizontal to a vertical. And here is the list of 2 recent news items, which is in our grid view. Let's hide that. So this is like the fun stuff when we start getting lists and teasers and adding them all over your site where it makes sense. Home pages, things like that. Okay, we are at time. I want to be mindful of time. So we did cover quite a bit. When in doubt, always refer to the user guide, and I'm going to put that link in here again because everything that I talked about and more is all in the user guide. If you're trying to figure out how to do something, it doesn't have as much technical backend data, like which module we use, etc. But it does have a lot of information on how to build your site. How often is the guide updated? Good question, Bernardo. Since we
every
do
6 to 8 weeks, but the guide literally gets updated anytime we see a pattern of questions coming in, and we think to ourselves, oh, let's document that in the guide so that in the future it's easier for people to understand. So it literally can be updated just about every day, but new features every 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes. Okay.
And let's see, Jimmy's got a question on, is there a visual way to visually compare what was changed for 2 versions of a given basic page? So for 2 versions, you mean if you have a basic page at 10:47 a.m. and then you save a change to 10:48 and you want to see what was changed between the 2 versions? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Do you know the answer to that, Cynthia?
No, you can only see a version, but there's no side-by-side like get or anything that you can see what's the difference. Yeah, because I'm just clicking on a version here. I can see that it is version history, but there isn't something that says a highlight that this has changed. Yeah, unfortunately, no.
What happens if you click that compare selected revisions? But
good question.
I think that's it.
Hey, well,
if you go up at the top and where it says visual inline, it might actually kind of point you to it, but yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it's the best experience. And Bernardo asks, who has the responsibility to edit and update the guide, a manager, developer, or technical editor? So we are a all hands on deck shop in Stanford Web Services. So the authoring of user guide documentation is generally a communications specialist who works in our UIT communications team. So she sort of rides shotgun with our development and design team as we're planning a release. And then we turn over how things work to her, and she writes the first draft of a documentation page, and then we edit it and we publish it. But that being said, if she's not available or there's something going on, a lot of times our customer experience specialist will take a pass on writing a documentation page. I've written them, Cynthia's probably written them. It's whoever gets to it first, and then we have people sit down and read it and test it for us. So we're a small team, so it tends to be whomever has the time.
There
do the
is a
writing.
section on the user guide here that, you know, if you have feedback or you find a bug, there's definitely a way to report that and let us know.
Yeah,
There's us,
and
look at us.
and that's a fraction of us that was
I
taken
know.
prior to the pandemic, and we actually hired people during the pandemic, so we've grown since then. But I want to encourage everybody to use the Drupalers Slack channel. And a lot of times, if you put questions in there or show things that you're building in there, others who are building sites will benefit from it or will answer the question too. If you have a support question, definitely go to sites.stanford.edu. The link to our ServiceNow help queue is right there front and center, or Cynthia's highlighting it on our user guide right there. That's monitored by some truly excellent people, including Melanie Baton on our team during business hours. And she starts pretty darn early. So she's here around 7 o'clock in the morning and hops on those questions right away. So hopefully, if you can use the user guide, send us a question through ServiceNow or turn to your friends in the Drupalers channel. There's always going to be somebody around who can help.
It's also in the site itself. So if you have a Stanford site, if you click on the help page, there's links to everything there as well.
No shortage of ways to find help. And there's over 1,000 Drupal 9 websites now. So we've finally tipped. We have more Drupal 9 sites than we have Drupal 7, and we are killing about 100 Drupal 7 sites a week, sometimes more. So please keep moving. Let us know your questions and let us know what things you want to see next, because there are some developers, and our front-end developer, Jen, is on this Zoom call, and they will make all those new features and things that you're looking for in the service come true.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today, and have fun at the rest of camp.
Nice job,
Thank
Cynthia. It's great
Great
to see
job.
everybody.
Thank you for the great
Thank
session.
Thanks, Irina.
Thanks. Wonderful, Cynthia. This is